Cool.
Here we go. All right.
Okay, so I'm going to call to order the November 18th, 2025 or regular ordinance committee meeting. It is 7:01, and we have with us Heather Dunn, Ann Winterstrand, Josh Goldstein, Jalen Seed, and we expect to see, and we'll just note when they join us, Johan Lopez and also Nora Najewski-Eichner. And this one well may be our last meeting for this council for the ordinance committee. So we have a couple pieces of business, and then I'll thank my committee. The first matter on the agenda is a public hearing to discuss and vote on a new ordinance, use of school bus violations and enforcement systems.
Hmm.
So, Brian, if you want to see if anybody is from the general public is here to
Sure.
discuss that, that would be great.
Okay. If anybody from the public would like to speak on this matter, please raise your hand. No one's raising their hand.
Okay, so seeing none, I'll close the public hearing for the new ordinance use of school bus violations and enforcement systems. I think everybody who's here was here at our last meeting where we discussed this matter in detail. Do any of the committee members have any questions for Brian or me regarding this? Or otherwise, we can take a vote to vote it to the next council meeting, which will probably be in December. I think the one, here's Johan.
Uh,
So
December 9th.
December 9th. Yep. Johan's here. So we're going to say that Johan joined us at 7:03. Um,
Hmm.
Johan, we just opened
Okay.
and closed the use of school bus violations enforcement systems public hearing for that new ordinance. We discussed it in detail at our last meeting. So unless
We also had
anybody,
no emails about it either, so
yeah. So I would entertain a motion from one of us to take this to our next common council meeting for approval by the full council. Thank you, Heather, for making that motion. All in favor? That appears to be unanimous. Great. So the second public hearing we have this evening is to discuss and vote on Chapter 68, noise sections, and I'm going to read them all. 68.1, 68.2, 68.3, 68.4, 68.5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So 68.1 through 15. And then Brian, why don't you see if anybody from the public would like to speak on this matter?
sure. And again, I did not receive any emails concerning this matter either. If anyone would like to speak on noise, please raise your hand now. We have one.
Okay, great. Ah, Beverly Wright.
Beverly Wright, if you could just unmute yourself, full name and address for the record, and welcome.
Beverly, it
We
looks
can't
like you're
hear you,
unmuted.
Beverly.
Yeah, if you want to speak.
Hi, my name is Beverly Wright. I live at 1 Sea River Road in Norwalk, and I would like to join any other community members that will follow me in expressing strong support for the proposed noise ordinance. Your vote will, for the first time, give Norwalk a noise standard that is both clear and easy to measure. The police department has recommended and endorsed these changes, and we would make this part of their work as straightforward and enforceable as possible. The proposed ordinance complies with the state's guidance and brings Norwalk in line with the majority of the other towns in Connecticut. You've heard those points before, and I hope they provide sufficient support for approving the ordinance. But there's one additional point that deserves emphasis. According to the overwhelming consensus of the medical community, as well as the UN, the EPA, and other public health authorities, high levels of noise are harmful to both mental and physical health. Noise control should be considered as fundamental to public safety as street lighting, stop signs on school buses, and our strong gun safety laws. High levels of noise raise blood pressure, stress the cardiovascular system, and contribute to psychological harm. The power of noise to cause human suffering is so well recognized that it even has been used as a form of torture. We can close our eyes, but we cannot close our ears. Please pass the noise ordinance. What you do here today will improve the health, safety, and quality of life in Norwalk for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wright.
Thank you,
Any,
Beverly.
any other speakers, Brian?
No one else has raised their hand.
Okay, so I'll close the
Oh,
public
wait,
hearing.
Peter
Oops.
just raised his hand. Hold on.
All right, bring Peter on in.
Peter, if you could unmute yourself, give your full name and address for the record, and welcome.
Oh, great. Thanks for having us. Having me, Peter Lane, 3 River Road, Norwalk, Connecticut. And yes, I applaud. I read the draft that was publicized on the noise ordinance, and I think it was a great job by the committee, and they cleaned up what were a lot of conflicts in the old noise ordinance with the state and the state's regulation. You know, as defined, they define a noisy zone and residential use, and you know, as a property occupied by a single, you know, a household and a private owner. So the Norwalk ordinance had a bunch of conflicts in it that convoluted that, and as we know, the stricter standards apply. So I commend the committee for doing the work they did, and I think it's a much more enforceable noise ordinance that protects all of us in the city, no matter what. Where the other conflicts kind of segregated out different sections of town to be subject to higher noise levels, which I don't think was anybody's intention. But anyway, you know, we all have a right to a peaceful right to, you know, to quiet, especially after 8 o'clock at night. And I know you guys have done a good job working on all that, and I applaud it. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Nobody else has raised their hand, Lisa.
Okay, then I will close the hearing on Chapter 68 noise and open it up for discussion in the committee if there's any questions. We've had this before us probably 4 or 5 times, I think, Heather, right? Maybe more. So at this point, I think we're pretty familiar with it. So seeing no questions from the committee, I'd entertain a motion to take this to full council at our next council meeting.
How do you
Thank you,
know
Amy.
let Heather do that?
I know, Heather, maybe you want, let's let Heather do that.
I'll put it the
That's-
council. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, good. So all in favor of taking this to council at our next December meeting? That is everyone. That's great. So the next item on our agenda is public participation. And Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you again to see who might be wanting to speak on the agenda items.
Sure. Just before we get going, after the public hearings, I just wanted to thank Heather and Chief Walsh for their assistance in fixing, simplifying, and making this an easier ordinance to read for everybody involved and to enforce. So thank you to both.
Yeah, it's excellent work and we really appreciate it. And I hope that Chief Walsh, you're finding it way easier to administer this ordinance than the one we did before.
Yeah, it will be. It will definitely simplify the process.
That's awesome.
Right.
Okay, so public participation now, Brian, for the agenda items, which
Yeah, again, no emails on any of the items that were on the agenda, including the ones that didn't have any backup materials that were for discussion only, and no one's raising their hand.
no
Oh,
one's
we do
raising.
we have a raised hand. Hold on. Paul
Okay.
Fox. Oh, we got a couple now. Paul, if you could just give your full name and address for the record, unmute yourself and welcome.
Still muted.
Yep, still muted.
I'm going to see if I can unmute him. I can't unmute him. Paul, can you unmute yourself? Oh, hold on. We got different. Paul's on a different thing. Hold on. I'm going to remove this one and try the other one. Paul, can you unmute yourself? Give your full name and address for the record and welcome.
Maybe we pass on Paul and go to the
Yeah,
next
but
person.
we'll come
and Paul
back. We'll
can
come back to
figure that.
Paul.
We'll come back to
Paul's
Paul.
on a couple times now. Hold on.
He's just got to figure out his.
Right. So while we try to figure this out, we'll go to Tanner. Tanner Thompson, unmute yourself, full name and address for the record and welcome.
All right,
Tanner?
no, I think I'm
We got,
coming.
we
There
got
you
you.
We got you, Tanner.
All right. Thank you, thank you. Tanner Thompson, 16 Hillside Place, number K5 in Norwalk. I want to speak to the discussion item about e-bikes. I want to make 2 points. First of all, I want to express support for the spirit of the state law that was passed. But second of all, I want to kind of underscore a um, maybe a nomenclature issue that I think the state law does a good job of addressing, but that has largely been lost in the public conversation that I hope doesn't get lost in the conversation here in Norwalk around e-bikes. And that is that this term e-bike is being used as an umbrella term for a lot of different devices that really vary quite broadly in terms of their capabilities. As an advocate for sustainable transportation, when I talk about e-bikes, I'm talking about the lower speed e-bikes predominantly. In the state law, it alludes to class 1, 2, and 3, which are federal designations. Those are all classes that are relatively low speed, especially compared to the types of e-bikes that are the state law is seeking to regulate most heavily. A lot of the public conversation around this has conflated those class 1, 2, and 3 type e-bikes that require no registration, that are primarily used for transportation, with these other faster e-bikes that really should, in my opinion, be referred to as electric motorbikes or electric motorcycles, because they're quite different in nature. And I hope that as we discuss this as a community, and as you all as a committee discuss this, that you will keep in mind that there's really quite a big difference between these, on the one hand, devices that are really designed to facilitate sustainable transportation, to replace, that have the potential to replace car trips and to make our city more sustainable, and the ones that are really quite a bit more dangerous, that are the target of the state level regulation here. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tanner. Oh, Brian, you're muted.
Thank you, Tanner. We're going to try Paul again. Hold on one second. Paul, if you could unmute yourself, full name and address for the record. Let's give this another try. Try it
Rats.
again.
Yeah. And I was going to tell Paul that if he can't get through, then he could feel free to send us an email that we'll put with the record.
I could try to promote him to a panelist.
Try that.
Okay. Paul, we're going to promote you to a panelist. Maybe that'll change something. Can you unmute yourself?
Looks like it's just not going to work. So, Paul, we'd really invite you to send an email to Brian, and we'll share it with the full committee and make it part of our minutes. And we're really sorry that that didn't work. Is there anyone else, Brian, who's wanting to speak to?
Yep, Ben. I'm going to allow him. Hold on one second. Ben, if you could just lower your hand, unmute yourself, full name and address for the record, and welcome.
You guys can hear me?
We
I can.
Okay, great. Yeah, my name is Ben Handpeter. I live at 14 Haviland Street, Unit B4. And I also want to speak on the e-bike discussion. I'm not really sure what the context of the discussion will be, but I wanted to kind of echo some of the points that Tanner made and say that, I get around primarily in Norwalk with an e-bike. I don't own a car. And I think it's really important that e-bikes remain broadly accessible for people. And that's why I do support how the state managed it with their law to keep the lower power e-bikes, of which I have one, not licensed, and the more powerful ones that are more similar to motorcycles be licensed. And I don't know what sort of options Norwalk has to deviate from what the state has put in place, but I think that that's a pretty good framework and way of thinking about things. I think it's important for more people to be able to get on bikes safely, easily, conveniently, in order to meet Norwalk's sustainability and transportation goals. And to tie it back to that noise ordinance thing, e-bikes are a lot quieter than cars. So yeah, those are just some of my thoughts that I'd like to share before your discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
I'm going to try Paul one more time.
All right, Paul. Third time's a charm.
Paul, can you unmute yourself?
All righty. I think we've given it the college try.
Yeah.
So we'll hope that
Right.
Paul sent in
Sorry,
some.
Paul.
We did the best we could. All right, so I do need a motion to just to on the acceptance of minutes for the last our last committee meeting, which was on October 21st. So
Does anyone have any changes? I could put it up if you need it.
No.
hopefully everybody read it before. So would somebody move that we accept the minutes as filed? Thank you, Jalen. All in favor? Accept the minutes as filed. Good, we're all set. So tonight we don't have any action items, but I've invited the chief to talk about two things. First, so much work has been done by the chief of police and his department for enforcing the vape ordinance that we wrote several months ago. So we wanted to get a little update on that. I think the chief has some ideas about maybe for the next council about maybe some amendments and changes we could make to make it even work better. And then I also wanted him to talk about the new law regarding e-bikes and e-scooters because there's just so much discussion in the neighborhood. And this is again would be something that the next council might consider if there's anything that we could even do. So Chief, I'll turn it over to you to first talk about chapter 112A, which is our vape ordinance, vape shop ordinance.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. In regards to the ordinance that was enacted and went implemented September 1st, the biggest issue that we're seeing so far is shops failing to register. We have 48 shops that technically need to fall under this new ordinance. And I think as of last week, we only had 12 that were validly registered. Five have been denied based on suitability when they did their background check. So since last week at this time, the special services officers have very diligently hit every single shop that has not registered since September, and we issued an infraction for $250, which is a technical violation because they were supposed to register. They have not. There was also another handful of shops who, for lack of better words, they've changed management, they've changed other things going in the shop, and they truly did not know that they were supposed to. So we sort of like gave them a grace period to fall into to compliance till next week. But some of the shops that we did issue infractions were the original proprietors that when we spoke to in September when we gave them the packages, because every single vape shop in town was visited by the officers and they got the whole application and a copy of the ordinance with directions on what to do. So some of them blatantly ignored it. So I think last time I checked with Sergeant Geismer, there was 13 infractions given out. On the compliance side in regards to sales, we just had our third uh, successful operation, a criminal investigation where they were selling marijuana and illegal vape products. So we already have uh, technically 15 violations, no, 16 violations for as a first step. Three for sales and 13 for failing to register. So we're going to keep on top of that. So you have to understand that that's their first strike in regards to the ordinance. So the only thing that I did see in the ordinance, it was a little bit silent on failing to register, but in speaking with Brian in his office and the officers, we did that. It's technically it's there, but it's not specifically written like a failure to register violation in the ordinance. But the spirit and it says that you're supposed to, and they didn't. So we did take enforcement action on those. And I did attend a meeting last week up in Hartford with Consumer Protection, and this is not just Norwalk. There had to be 35 to 40 municipalities represented up there from East Haven to Hartford, New Haven, Bridgeport, Fairfield, and we're all struggling with the same problem. And a lot of this is a much larger transnational criminal issue. Believe it or not, this is grown to be no longer a local issue. It is much larger. But we're on top of it, and I think that this ordinance is probably a model for other municipalities to use because it was actually part of the PowerPoint that Consumer Protection presented. They referenced the Norwalk ordinance, which was good, and That's awesome. I discussed that a little bit. So it's going to be some time, but in 3 months we've done a lot of work. September, October, November, the officers have done a lot of work, and it's ongoing. So and when I was speaking to Tom, I can't really suggest right now any specific language changes. And then maybe the only thing that we possibly add is a specific violation and a specific tiered violation for failure to register, because that's like the basis of what they have to do. So I think we should be a little bit more strict on that. Is that, okay, this is your base, that you should be doing this, and there's no excuse why they shouldn't be doing it. We had some, gas stations that were owned, by national companies that they do, and I'm having their compliance officers call me saying, "Well, I didn't know," and I'm like, "Well, your local representative knew, and they should have done it." So they're slowly falling into place. So I think the only thing that we need to suggest for this is some form of stronger language for failure to register. Everything else is pretty tight.
Well, first of all, Chief, this was, really your initiative, and we really appreciate you bringing it to the ordinance committee. And we're very proud that it might well be a model for other communities in Connecticut. So I think that that's fantastic. And we appreciate that it's turned into a very good tool for you to keep the community safer. So we super appreciate your enforcement of it as well. Josh, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, so first of all, I completely agree with what Lisa said, and Chief, you and the officers have done an exemplary job, and I think that getting everyone on the same page is always hard. Not that I'm asking you to write anything specific, but just a thing to think about, sort of the kinds of I'm, being strict, but also it's not just incentives, but like things that will get their back up and get them to comply. So the kinds of enforcement actions that may be helpful or something that you've seen in other, just in your experience or other ways in the city code where you've been able to do enforcements that can get someone to frankly pay attention, whether it's a lien or some sort of recurring daily penalty. I don't know what you would recommend. And I'm not asking you to make a recommendation right now if you're not prepared, but I do think we want it to be effective.
Understood.
So that's
Well,
I don't know what the right answer is, but I feel like that's the question.
no, and the second step is a 6 month suspension. So
Okay. But yeah,
then the third violation within a year is a closure.
yeah,
So we're going to reach those crossroads, and we're going to see how, as a municipality, between City Hall and the police department, how we're going to affect those closures,
yeah,
and where we're going to seize and store all this product,
Mm.
because the officers have already said, "Hey, Chief, where are we going to keep all this stuff?" So
Mm.
that is a concern.
yeah,
But it'll get done. It's just we just have to plan it out, and
yeah,
with the as we go along, there may be growing pains, and but I think it'll all work out.
Yeah, one of the things we like to do as ordinance is to, give it 6 or 8 months and just see, because there may be other things that you say, oh,
Oh,
this is
sure.
me as well. So, this is a good, shortcut, already like a little notice that there is something that we could do, and then there may be other things. So, whoever's in the new chair in the next council, should have this on their radar as something to check back with you and get good ideas. Any
Yep.
other
Okay.
questions from any other members of the committee? Johan, you had a lot of work to do on this, so you might have a question or two, or no, you're good. Heather was about to raise her hand, I
Well,
think.
no, I was going to quickly say, Chief, thank you so much, and thank you to Brian for everyone for putting this together. As you know, it's personal to me and stuff like that. So, to you guys, thank you so much for all the support, and to the rest of the committee as well. So, thank you guys. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And Heather?
I just wanted to say thank you too. I look at it through the lens of it's really protecting our kids, which is really important to me. And I just want to take the opportunity to give a shout out to Officer Gonyas, who we just lost, and I'm looking forward to having a new SRO. So thank you.
So the second
Yes.
reason why I wanted the chief to come is that certainly in my district, we've been terrified by the e-scooters and the e-bikes just dashing all over town. We've got little kids riding these bikes 15 to 30 miles an hour. It's been nerve-wracking. And I know that there's been a new law in Connecticut. So I wanted the chief to just talk a little bit about that. I don't know if there's anything specific that we can do as a municipality, and maybe we just need to do a better job of, going to our neighborhood associations and educating people about the dangers for, these young children riding these bikes. But Chief, if you could address some of the concern, well, the law at a certain level, and if there's anything we can do more in Norwalk.
Yeah. To someone, I think one of the callers, the state law that took effect October 1st, 2025 is a good law. It encompasses a lot of our concerns. and reviewing it several times, there's e-scooters and e-bikes. Right now, we sort of have an unregulated e-scooter business in the city of Norwalk. I have no idea where they're coming from or where they're popping up or who's running this business, but there's e-scooters everywhere and they're being left and then other people pick them up. So in regards to e-scooters, the state did give local municipalities the ability to regulate them to a point in regards to registration, yearly registration, and things like that. But I think as a municipality, I think we need to see who is running these businesses and where they are. And because one thing that we need to realize is that in speaking with Chief McCabe from the fire department, where are these batteries being charged? Because these high power lithium batteries have been shown and proven to be a fire hazard in when stored in the improper condition. So, I could drive down the road and see two or three going past the mall or Washington Street and North Main Street. And I think they're a great thing. But I think the very first step the city of Norwalk needs to do is, okay, who's running the business? Where are they stored? Are they a regulated business in the city of Norwalk? Are they following all the rules or regulations? And then, some guidance from there about staying off the sidewalk. If, in regards to the e-scooters, in regards to, an e-scooter has to be 75 pounds or less, is both electric and human powered, but no parent or child may authorize or knowingly permit any such child to violate any of this provision. So to Lisa's point, they're not supposed the e-scooters I'm specifically talking about are not supposed to be driven by children. And they could whiz by you at nighttime when you're stuck at a traffic light and you don't even see them coming. So I think that as the new common council and as new government takes over in all this, I think that we need to start at a very high level and see where these are coming from and start regulating it.
Yeah, I'd really encourage the new council to do it. We have on my street alone, I've got 4 different kids who are riding these scooters and day and night, and sometimes they don't even have the light on it. It's terrifying. And someone's going to have an accident and we're going to, feel terrible about it, even though it might not be the driver's fault.
Yeah.
Lisa,
And just to the point where there's somewhere in a business who's renting these things out because what you do is if someone leaves a scooter on a sidewalk where you can come use it next, all you gotta do is scan your credit card.
Yeah.
And go take it. And we don't know as a city if the scooters that they're renting out are compliant. How do we know that they can't go over 20 miles per hour? Because they're regulated to not go over 20 miles per hour. How do we know that they're the right wattage and that they're all have lights and the rest of the safety features and that they're taking the provisions to prevent children from using them and all the rest of the things. So it's right now it's completely unregulated.
Heather, I saw your hand flutter.
So I have a question too. I mean, one of my concerns, Lisa, when you're talking about that is helmets. A lot of the kids that I see wear them are not wearing helmets. And if you're renting one, you're obviously not picking up a helmet at the same time. Where at that speed, if you, crash or car runs into you, it's very different than, a lot of people like me, you're riding a bike, but you're usually wearing a helmet with a e-bike.
Yes.
Prominently. So is there a way to really maybe regulate helmet use with speed?
It would come down to the officer stopping the violator. That's it right then and there because it's such an easy way to just hop on these scooters and some of them are privately owned. There's a lot of people with privately owned scooters out there and they take them home and they're using them every day to commute. But excuse me, I've seen some of probably the more responsible ones and even adults wearing scooters, and those are probably the ones that are privately owned and they're commuting around town with them. So it's a matter of us being able to control the ones that are just being left out there for re-rentals.
So there's really 2 matters that maybe we ought to look at as a city: who's running the businesses and how that's operated, and if they're properly storing them and properly charging them, et cetera, and then privately licensed ones as well. Josh, you had your hand up,
Yeah,
and
I
then
mean, I just want to, first of all, I think this is exactly the right issue to bring up. I took a very quick pass at the statute, and it's a little vague what we can and can't do here. But um, I think, I mean, look, forget your position on e-bikes in general. I don't really think e-bikes are the concern here. I think the concern here is minors and scooters that are really motor vehicles. I mean, Chief, if I mean, some of these motorbikes I think go over the speed limit. If it's a 25-mile speed zone, I mean, I think some of these bikes can go over that and hit
They
28,
can.
30 miles an hour.
Yeah, do
If
you
the-
want
are
to give
you,
a
are
high
you,
level view, Chief, about bikes? You spoke about scooters. Do you want to give us the high level view on
Yeah,
bikes?
the bikes are to Tanner's point, there's three class. Class one is pedal assist only with a maximum speed of 20 miles per hour.
Mhm.
Class two, pedal assist or throttle with a maximum speed of 20 miles per hour. Class three, pedal assist or throttle with a maximum speed of 28 miles per hour. And with class three, you need to be 16 years old to operate because it's technically considered almost a motor vehicle. You're almost driving a motorcycle at that point. So and they're supposed to be colored and they're supposed to be stickered and to separate the classes, but it's very difficult if you're even they're sitting at a traffic light and you see one go by, you're supposed to look for a specific sticker so to differentiate between a class one, class two, and class three. So that's problematic right there. And but any child or anybody that looks under 16 should be having the helmet on. So, to Josh's point, the state does give limited power to municipalities as long as they do not conflict with current state law or regulation, and it does give us the ability to annually register these scooters or e-bikes with sales and the transfers. So,
I just don't, I guess my question here, I mean, vehicle and traffic law makes it very clear how to obtain a license for a vehicle, to be able to operate a vehicle. If you are if you're under the age of 16, and I'm saying 16 because that's when you can, is it 17 or 16 and now where you can get a permit, and
15.
eventually get a license?
Wasn't it 15 for a while? I thought it was.
it's 16 to get
It's 16.
yeah,
Okay.
16 to
I'm
get
thinking about
your
Illinois when I lived in Illinois.
Um,
Written part of
but if you're below that age and you are driving an e-bike, which e-bikes can go relatively fast, but the scooters, as I understand it, probably can go faster. I mean, it seems like from the public safety standpoint, I would think the scooters are the more pressing public safety issue. And the e-bikes with the classification, I don't know enough about that issue, but I mean, I think you are absolutely right to bring up this issue insofar as it's not even about whether you like or dislike the transportation. I just think about it in terms of auto collisions. And
How I'm
you're
thinking of it.
making a left turn, you're in an intersection. I mean, my God, you miss and you get hit. The injuries could be traumatic
yeah.
and very, very significant. Even if you are driving a vehicle and not going what you would think is that fast, even an impact at 10, 15, 20 miles an hour is significant impact if you are just on a scooter and there's no seatbelt, there's no protection, and
There's been a
so
yeah, and there's been a big complaint, certainly in Rowayton, which is where I'm most noticing this, where these kids are driving these e-bikes very quickly and not obeying traffic rules. So they're cutting through,
yeah.
they're going
Well,
through
and
red
that's the
lights.
thing. I mean, they're essentially they're operating a motor vehicle, you know, when they're not licensed to do so.
And too young.
And well, and too young. And look, I mean, I live in West Norwalk. I see people zip by on these all the time, and they're kids and they're middle school age looking kids. So I don't know, Chief, of you. I mean, again, like this is sort of the thing where we're thinking about like what is in the best public safety interest? Because obviously, I would imagine there are parents who are permitting their kids to do this. And I don't know what the rules are. For example, like for these companies, I think there was one called Bird at one point. I don't know what the ones are here. I imagine in order to, from a liability standpoint for the company, I would imagine you have to be over a certain age in order to be able to rent one of these scooters. I don't know if that's the case, but if not, it should be,
As long as they have a credit card.
as long as they have a credit card.
Yeah. So as long as
Wow,
they have a credit
that
card.
is bad. I
Yeah.
mean, you would just think from an insurance standpoint, but okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at this entirely from the public safety
But
angle.
that'll be our ability as a municipality to start
Yeah,
having discussions with them and say, hey, what safeguards are you putting in place to prevent
right.
juvenile
And I guess
operation of your scooters?
and without sort of going through the law, I haven't gone through the law that specifically, and Chief, I don't know if you think, but I mean, look, I mean, what we're looking for are, grants from the state in order to use our leverage as, a municipality to write an ordinance that gives us the ability to negotiate with these companies and say you're not allowed to, conduct business in Norwalk unless you do X, Y, and Z. And I just don't know yet if we have the authority to say you are not allowed to operate in the city of Norwalk if you are not taking, I'm making this up, but substantial measures to make sure that you are not renting to scooters to someone who's under the age of 17.
Similar to what we did with vape.
Then it would be almost like a planning and zoning thing in regards to
Yeah,
forming, non-conforming, and things like that.
completely. And that's where
Exactly. And it just the biggest point is, where are these things being charged?
yeah,
That's a critical point.
yeah, it
And
is.
Anne had her hand up first, and then Heather after that. But Josh, if you finished your
Nope, I'm
questions.
all good.
Oh, okay, good. So Anne, you're
Thanks.
next.
I just have two quick things to say. One is I'm going to say anecdotally, because I don't have any hard evidence. Sometimes the apartment buildings offer these to residents to use to come in. Now, I don't know if they're credit card based or what, but I've seen that when I visited some apartment buildings, some of the larger apartment buildings. So I don't know who's running that, if it's a business, if it's subcontracted by the building or whatever. But um, my other point or my other question is sort of maybe for public safety. I agree we should be exploring the ordinance and the statutes. Um, is there a way to kind of do a public safety campaign around this? And maybe that's more Jalen's committee, but or the police department or some collaboration where we can get some kind of messaging out to people, to drivers, to kids, to parents, just that this increase in use of scooters and how dangerous it is. And
We did a pretty rigorous social media campaign after the
okay,
1st of October when all these new laws came out. We actually
okay,
created graphs and different layers of the charts of the bikes and stuff like that. We did that. It's just going to be, I bet one of the most popular gifts for Christmas is either going to be an e-bike or an e-scooter. So
right.
they're growing in
By the
We'll
way,
popularity.
just keep
how much do scooters retail for?
I do not know.
Because the e-bikes can get pretty expensive pretty
Yes.
quickly, but
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
scooters are probably less so, and that
Yeah.
actually makes it more dangerous too.
Yes.
The other thing is if I recall correctly, when I was speaking with Broderick Sawyer when he was fire marshal, if you have, like Ann mentioned, if you do have these apartment complexes that are offering them and you can charge them there, then it's also a question of are they in compliance with our fire code?
Mm.
hmm
Because as the chief mentioned, some of these things can catch fire, and if I recall correctly, they might have been with electric vehicles. But I remember Broderick Sawyer telling us at one point that some of these places were not in compliance with the fire laws, the state fire code, as it pertains to charging of things like this.
Yeah, he says the
Mm.
real risk is that if you don't match the charger to the if you use a
Yeah.
road charger, especially. Heather,
Yeah.
you had your hand up.
Right. So I do want to say that this is an issue, and I think somehow this should be addressed because you talk about Christmas. Oh my goodness, I went one of the worst Christmas Eve fires I've gone to is, the parents try to charge a scooter or bike for their kid, and the whole house was burned down. It was horrible.
Oof.
But also here in Norwalk, I think it's Norwalk, Stanford. I think it was Norwalk recently. Um, you know, it was done in an apartment building where somebody just left it charging, in a public space, and it made, 11 families homeless pretty quickly. And part of the problem is that when the batteries burn, the fire department can't put them out because of the chemicals.
Mm.
So somehow to have some system for where you can charge these things, probably not in congregate living. To Ann's point, if apartments doing that, maybe there's an outside space, in the same way you might want a Tesla charger away from
Mm.
other people's living spaces, because and I think that the e-scooters are more of an issue with the larger batteries, but it's a really horrible situation when those fires happen. And most of the ones that the fires I've been to are multiple families affected. So,
So there's nothing to
Lisa,
be done tonight, but I just wanted to
Le-
raise this. Oh, Jalen, let
Lisa,
Jalen.
real quick.
Sure.
Paul Fox was able to send me an email. He was unable to get to speak at the meeting under public participation and public comment.
Okay.
Just quickly, my name is Paul Fox, and my address is 11 Hanford Place. As someone without a car who relies on an e-bike for basic transportation, including for shopping and groceries, I'd like to comment regarding the discussion on e-bikes. First of all, I'd like to recognize that the recent state law, SHB 6862, lays a solid groundwork by distinguishing between e-bikes, low-speed vehicles federally designated as Class 1 through 3, and motor-driven cycles, which are higher power, higher speed vehicles. I would encourage all committee members to read this bill. Secondly, I'd like to encourage the committee to consider that low-speed e-bikes make cycling for transportation accessible to more people and are not meaningfully faster or more dangerous than conventional bicycles. For many low-power Class 1 e-bikes, it isn't even easy to distinguish them from conventional bikes. Therefore, stricter enforcement ought to be focused on higher speed, higher power vehicles, which pose more risk to their riders and the public, and low e-bikes should, in nearly all cases, be considered equivalent to regular bicycles. Regards, Paul Fox. Thank you. Go ahead, Jalen.
Yeah, I think that just going forward, I think we kind of all agree that we got to address it. And I think probably work together with public safety and ordinance in the next coming year to really make sure we do everything we could on the ordinance side, but also make public safety work. I know we talked about even with Barbara, the mayor-elect, about just working on our communication as a city. The police department does a great job, but as a city, just communicating the risk and the factors and maybe doing a campaign in the city and with the police department. So I think we could like kind of walk and chew gum at the same time and work both of these committees to make sure that we get it done. But I think that nobody's against the e-bikes, but we just want to make sure that the public's safe. So I think we just got to do whatever we can to make sure we move forward in the best way.
Yep. Thank you, Jalen. I was going to kind of conclude the conversation in that very way, just saying that, this is a little bit of issue spotting and just bringing it to the committee members who are going to continue on in this committee. And it does seem like a place that's really ripe and a lot on, really public safety for a lot of people and a lot of neighborhoods. So that is a wrap, I think. Thank you very much
Thank
to
you,
the chief
Chief.
for
Thank
coming
you.
to bring us up to date on those two ordinances.
Thank
And
you,
then I'd
Chief.
like to thank all of my committee members. It's been a pleasure serving with you guys for the
Yeah.
last 6 years.
Hold
I
on
so
a minute.
appreciate.
Yeah. I think
What?
Lisa needs to get her flowers because you've done an exemplary job leading this committee.
Yeah.
You have, I mean, look, I've been on the council for 4 years. I have learned so much from you. And you told me something very early about this committee, which I've always loved, which is that this is the one committee on the council where we drive the agenda.
It's true.
And there's a lot of help from a lot of people from across the city government who Chief Walsh, here tonight, but he's not the only one who lend their expertise and help us, figure this out and create the best ordinances that are effective and enforceable. But it doesn't happen without someone like you, because I have been in those meetings where we are hours and hours and hours going through details, nits, legislation, figuring out what you can do under the state law, sometimes pushing the envelope a little bit. And I mean, from the first noise ordinance, outdoor dining, cannabis, complete streets, the noise ordinance that you and Heather worked on, the vape ordinance that the chief just said is already making waves. I mean, I can think of there are 15 at least more that have already have a noticeable effect on this community. And, so just thank you.
Well, it's been a pleasure. And obviously, all of us have worked together to do each of these things. I think that each one of us have had something we've worked together on, which I've really, really enjoyed. And of course, none of this would happen without Brian's excellent leadership. So,
Yep.
Brian, I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss our weekly phone calls.
You're not
Catch
getting
up
off
on
that easy. So
things.
first of all, I'd like to thank everyone who serves on this committee. You guys make my job much easier than it otherwise would be. So that's the first thing. The second thing, to our exiting members, Nora, who's not here, Heather and Lisa, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you guys, working on with Heather with noise and Lisa on many different items. It's easy to do the job when you have people like you on this committee. So thank you to everyone who served. And I look forward to working with the remainder of you that are coming back You guys are always welcome on my committee, your committee really, but I'm the one that's working with you, and it's a pleasure working with all of you. And again, just to the ones that are departing, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So thank you all very, very much. I'll miss you guys, but you guys can always call me and, gripe about how much work you have to do on this committee after I go. And Heather, because you're an exiting committee member, you can call for the adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
All righty.
Thank you.
All in
Thanks,
favor?
everybody.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Team. I miss you
Good night.
all. Take care.
Good night.
Good. Bye-bye.
Bye.